Norwich nil, Everton 1. I don't usually comment too much on football. It's one of those things I like to keep a secret, really. But I'd like to feel I know enough about the game to give my opinion, and my opinion is we are fucking shit. Absolute dog shit. Although we're not maybe in terms of points looking like the worst team in the Premier League, we certainly look like one of the worst teams in Premier League history. And that's the case, and it's been the case all season. You know, it's not a new thing. I think I can safely say that most Norwich supporters weren't expecting much this season. I think in terms of staying up, yes, it was a fairy tale at the start of the season. We put in some good performances. We beat Newcastle, we beat City, but I think the reality sort of hit us quite quickly, and I think now we've realised how crap our team really is, and but we weren't expecting much, but we fell in love with this team. We really did. In the Championship last season, we fell in love with it. We played some really good football. There was that never say die attitude with us, and I think that's why the city and football really kind of fell in love with Norwich. Considering the way we were playing, we were very, very naive in terms of the way we played, but it worked. You know, we've invested a lot in youth players. We haven't spent much, which I think is one of the reasons why we're not staying up, but that's another argument. But I think overall we fell in love with the team because it was the never say die attitude that we had. But by the sound, or by the looks of it, definitely, I think a lot of people are starting to fall out of love with it. And again, I'm not going to sit here kicking and screaming because, you know, we've had a really good season last season, winning the league and everything else, coming up to the Premier League, and we understand that the situation isn't the same. Obviously, clubs, you know, have tried their best to make football as normal as possible, but we all know that it's not. We all know that without fans being there, it's not the same. And I think Norwich, in fact, have been the biggest affected club in the Premier League of not having fans in their ground. You think back to the Leicester game, where we beat them 1-0. We didn't necessarily play well in that game, but the atmosphere there was second to none. And it got us over the line. And even with the Tottenham away game, where we took 9,000 people to their new ground, and we won the game on penalties. I've played football. I'm sure a lot of people watching this have played football, but crowds make a difference. It gives you that extra 15, 10, 5-10% whenever you're playing. We all know that, and I just feel that we are being massively affected by it, but it's not an excuse. Everybody's in the same boat as us. Everybody's in the same situation as us, so I'm not going to use that as an excuse, but I feel like it is a big reason why we are struggling. The Southampton game, Daniel Farke tried something. He changed formation, put two strikers up top. It didn't work. Fair enough. Tonight, he's come into the game against Everton, which he's admitted himself is a must-win game if we want to stay up. And then his idea behind it is to put Tetty in, which I think was a good decision. He'll shore up the defence. He'll generally make the midfield a little bit stronger. But then he takes out Buendia, the man who's got the most assists for us this year. Cantwell, who has been the best young player for us this year, in my opinion, and has scored a few goals. Scored against Everton earlier in the season. He's got 6 goals, I think, or something like that. And he takes off our top scorer, Timu Puki, and puts him on the bench. And this is a must-win game, let's not forget. It's a must-win game. The game panned out very, very similarly to what the Southampton game did, really. We started really well. Everton gave us a lot of the ball in the first sort of 30 minutes, and we created a few opportunities, but they weren't clear-cut opportunities. But we were in the game, and we were keeping the ball, we were playing some good football, but we didn't have that quality up front. Dermich, to me, doesn't look fit enough. Rupp is not the quality we need, and neither is Duda. Somebody please teach him how to take a corner and beat the first man. Please. They can fuck off back to their German sides, in my opinion. They haven't affected the team in any way. They should fuck off and never return, to be honest, because that's something you've got to blame the club for. I don't know who's in charge of recruitment. They've been quite good over the last few years, but Liverpool have just scored 2-0. They're winning the league, aren't they? Anyway, back to where we were. The recruitment has been poor in January. Getting 2 Championship Bundesliga players to come in the Premier League is just ridiculous. I'd rather go to League One or the Championship and get players. It's ridiculous. Yeah, and we concede a shitty goal, and then he waits another 10 minutes before making substitutions. And by the time then, because of the heat today, I think fitness has come into it. And generally, we just look really poor. We look a really poor side at the moment. We really do. We look like a team that is relegated. Simple as, and I think we've all accepted it now, to be honest. I was watching it on BBC, and they somehow came up with the excuse that he's resting players for the FA Cup. Again, it's not an argument to me. You want to stay in the league. I'd rather stay in the league than win the FA Cup, certainly. But you should have enough squad depth to not have to worry about resting players. You shouldn't. I know that we're a small club in terms of Premier League level. We are a small club. We're a self-sustaining club. We didn't plan to come up, last season. Stuart Webber has said that. It's pretty much a free shot at the Premier League this season. But surely that doesn't mean that you can sort of lack that much ambition to not try and stay in the league. Surely. There's so many mixed messages at the moment around the club. Daniel Farker saying they want to stay in the league. They've got we've got to win 5 more games to stay in the league. But then you've got Stuart Webber saying, well, it's a free shot anyway. It doesn't really matter. We were planning to go down anyway. So what does that make us think as fans? And it's not great. You sit here, you look at the side, and you just think it's. I will always love Norwich City, and they are a club I will always love, no matter where they are. But I am starting to fall out of love with this team, simply because there is no fight, there's no passion, there's no. Usually, we've seen it with Brighton, haven't we? After this lockdown period, we've had a long time off. You look at a team like Brighton. They play well against Arsenal. They beat them. Whether it was lucky or not, they beat them. And they get, I think it was a draw in their previous game, wasn't it? Or something like that, I can't remember. But they've shored up their defence, and they're more difficult to break down. And look at Watford, 1-0 down against Leicester at the weekend. They have enough character to bring it back and get a draw. Did you see any of that today? No. And I am slowly starting to fall out of love with this team. You've got to question Daniel Farker, I think, on his team selection. And you've got to question a lot of the players that are in there as well. So it's a tough one, but I think as of now we definitely are a championship team, definitely, and I think we'll be down there next season, unfortunately. But we've got, I think, fortunately enough for Norwich, we've only got 7 games left of the season. To me, the Southampton game was a must-win game. We didn't win that. The Everton game was a must-win game, and we didn't win that. And now we've got Arsenal away. Can't see us beating them, to be honest, the way we're playing. Brighton at home, I can't see us beating them. Can we? No, not really. All these games that you would have said were winnable before this all came back, I think we've all now been proven very wrong. So, Championship, here we come. But at least Ipswich are still in League One.